Being an auto enthusiast in the time of this national coronavirus lockdown, well, it's a bit depressing, isn't it? Because you can't really go drive your car, you can't go wash your car, you can't even take a couple of steps back and look at it and admire it in all its glory. And I love doing all those things with mine. And I've been daydreaming about all the different mods I do to my car, all the different changes I do to my car. And I've been going through all those used car websites to see if there are any cheap, affordable, and well, fun cars that I can pick up later once the lockdown lifts to have some fun through the rest of the year. And of course, make a bit of a side project, because project cars are always a whole bunch of fun. So what I've done is compile my top 5 list of cars that you can buy on a budget that will make you smile year to year. It will plaster a grin on your face. These are cheap enthusiast cars that you can buy in India for about a lakh or 1 lakh to 1.5 lakh rupees. Now, first on my list is a pretty obvious one if you know me. It's the first generation Honda City VTEC. Now, I've owned a VTEC. Well, in fact, I owned one until not too long ago. And I must tell you, it is miles and miles of smiles all day long. The way that engine revs is really quite something. In fact, I think it's one of the greatest engines India has ever seen. Greatest naturally aspirated engines, at least. The 1.5 liter engine made 106 horsepower, 0 to 100, wait for it, 10.01 seconds. That's fast even today's standards. And if you can't afford a VTEC, because well, they do sometimes go for absurd money, especially in certain parts of the country, the normal 1.5 liter engine isn't really all that bad either. It makes 101 horsepower, 0 to 100 takes 10.6 seconds, so it's not exactly a slouch. And if you do a whole bunch of mods to it, which you would do to a VTEC in any case, I'm talking about a whole exhaust system from the headers to the expansion chamber to the exhaust to the back mufflers, it actually cuts down about a second in acceleration time. So a nicely done exhaust system can actually make your car do 0 to 100 in about 9 seconds. And that's a quick car. That's a really quick car in terms of the overall Indian standards. Now, the VTEC, of course, has those identifying features like the 14-inch lightweight NK wheels, which are those flat dish wheels, very iconic, the spoiler on the back with the integrated tail lamp, and the silver dash panels. Now, remember to look out for these things, because some people might just put the wheels on and a different spoiler on. You do get them aftermarket and claim that it is a VTEC, but in some cases it isn't. That said, they are, as I mentioned, a whole bunch of fun. You can really bang through those gears. It's a lovely gearbox, it's a lovely setup, and it will give you a big smile whenever you drive it. Other mods I would do with that car would be, of course, a set of spark plugs, a set of strut braces both in the front and the back, which really stiffens up the whole car and makes it handle a bit better, and a set of maybe lowering springs, which you can get for about 20 or 25,000 rupees, and a better set of tires. All those things make a big difference to the Honda City VTEC. Now, the second car on my list is the Maruti Suzuki Swift. Now, of course, you can't get a last generation car with the 1.2, but you can snag a very early 2005 to 2007 example, a mint example, for less than that 1.5 lakh rupee budget, and in fact still have money left for mods to do. Now, those cars, of course, came with that really legendary Maruti G13B engine, which is a 1.3 liter, about 87 horsepower of power, and that engine revs, again, like the VTEC. It loves being pushed, it loves being taken to the ragged edge, and of course it's been used in rallying and racing for years and years and years. So there are a lot of parts in the market for that engine still, if you can really find some, and there are a lot of tuners and engine builders who really know that engine inside out, so they can really extract a lot of power, a lot of potential from that engine. Now, again, mods I would do to the Swift would include a full exhaust system right from the headers to the back, but what you could also opt to do is go all out and put maybe a turbo kit, or what I'd personally do in terms of getting the most performance out of that naturally aspirated engine is go for a set of high lift cams, a really high lift set of cams, and a nice exhaust system, some nice suspension, and leave it at that, because that chassis really does have a ton of potential. It's small, it's flickable, it will be a lot of fun. Now, the third car in my list is one that's often overlooked by a lot of enthusiasts because of the general perception of lack of parts or tuning capabilities for these cars in India. But I can assure you, even in stock form, this one is a lot of fun. It's the Ford Fiesta S, especially if you can snag it in that beautiful iconic blue that Ford launched it in. Of course, it has the very iconic front bumper and rear bumper and side skirts, which give it a sportier look, the different wheels, and that big spoiler at the back, and of course that nice large-ish exhaust tip. But what actually is nice about that car is under the skin, where it comes with a special suspension setup, which is 5 mm lower than the standard car. It also comes factory fitted with slightly larger and wider tires, and even though it's not very powerful, that 1.6 liter engine only made 101 horsepower, and it's definitely not as sprightly as, say, the Honda City VTEC is, but what it lacks in power, it makes up by a mile in handling. That car is one of the nicest handling cars you can get. And if you slap on a set of really good tires on the Fiesta S, it will actually definitely outpace a lot of much quicker cars on the street and on the track. And that's the end of our naturally aspirated section of the sort of affordable performance cars you can buy for under 1.5 lakh rupees. Let's move on to a little more punch turbocharged cars. First up on this list is the Fiat Linea T-Jet. Now, it's a car that's often overlooked because of the lack of parts and the general perception of Fiat in India. But that 1.4 liter turbocharged engine is a gem waiting to be unlocked, its full potential waiting to be unleashed by an automotive enthusiast doing a bit of aftermarket fettling on the car. So the standard engine, 1.4 turbo, making 113 horsepower, 0 to 100 in about 12 seconds or so. Not very fast off the sort of factory floor. But if you take it to a tuner and get a full exhaust system for that car and do a remap on that car really unlocks its potential. You can get well over 140 horsepower in that car with a little snap of your finger and some clever trickery with a laptop. And then the way that car drives is really something to write home about. Now, you should also get an earlier car as compared to the later versions of the Linea T-Jet, because the earlier car came with lower suspension, sportier lower suspension as compared to the later cars, which were lifted up for Indian driving conditions. Of course, you could get lowering springs and slam that car even further down to the ground, and the stance on those Lineas when they're slightly lowered with a nice set of wheels and tires is, ooh, mamma mia. And finally, the last car on our list, one that gives you the most bang for your buck as compared to everything else on our list here. It's the first generation Skoda Octavia VRS. It's got a nice set of big 16-inch wheels. It's got that big bumper, sporty bumper up front. It's got a rear boot spoiler. It's got a nice looking exhaust tip at the back. It's got leather interiors. It's got a sunroof. It's got everything you need from a performance car. And most importantly, it's really made well and it looks the part too, especially if you get one in yellow or red. Now, the first gen VRS is also a little bit of a problem because if things go wrong, it can be a real nightmare to fix in terms of, say, sensors or electronic bits. But on the flip side, if you want to tune your car, if you want to modify your car, there are a billion things you can do with it. You have suspension packages all the way from really cheap lowering springs to really high-end race-ready electronically adjustable suspension kits. You've got tuning kits to make your car from 180 to about 220 or so horsepower, all the way up to 500 horsepower. And they're all reliable horsepower because these things have been engineered by some of the best German companies like Revo and APR. They really do make some fantastic stuff for these cars. Of course, finding a really clean one for this kind of money will be a little difficult, but what you can get is a well taken care of car, maybe not very low mileage car, but make sure that it has some service history, because again, as I mentioned, things can go wrong and things can be expensive to fix. So that's my list of the top 5 affordable enthusiast cars you can buy for a lakh or lakh and a half rupees. But I thought I'd spice things up a little bit and add some bonus cars into the mix. First up, it's the Maruti Suzuki Gypsy. Now, it isn't an enthusiast car for the road, but it can definitely do stuff off-road that nothing in that list can, and it will still give you a lot of fun because it's also the cheapest way of having a convertible in your garage. Take that canvas roof off, take those doors off if you want to, fold that windscreen flat down and you have a completely open car, which is a lot of fun. Now, you might not get a MPFI 1.3 liter engine version, a later version in that kind of money. What you might get is a carbureted 1.3 version. But let me assure you, those cars are a lot of fun, especially if taken care of and eventually slowly built up to make something really nice. Now my second car on this list is a bit of a luxury offshoot. It's the W203 version of a Mercedes-Benz C Class. Yes, a star in just about £1.5 lakh. That's how much they've depreciated. And in fact, they're not really bad cars to drive. It's not that they're loved a lot by the enthusiast community or the Mercedes-Benz community as such, but at the end of the day, they're still nice cars to actually drive around in. Now, you might not get a really nice example of a C200 compressor in this range, but a pre-facelift C180 compressor all day long. Now, the C180 has about 145 horsepower, the C200 compressor has about 165 or so horsepower, and both of these cars are very cheap to buy. But remember, you're still buying a Mercedes-Benz, parts are not cheap, and so be ready for some big service costs if something major happens. My third car on the list is the Honda Accord V6, but particularly the 2007 Honda Accord V6 with those LED lights at the back, the nice big twin pipes, and of course that V6 engine, the 3-liter V6 engine making about 225 or so horsepower. It's a nice quick car, especially since that particular year looks the best of the early Honda Accords, and that particular year also has the updated 5-speed gearbox, which is something that you definitely must have to be mated with that V6 engine. My fourth car on the list is, well, not exactly a performance car as such or an enthusiast car, but it is one of the best city runabouts you can buy. It's an early first generation Alto K10, 68 horsepower from that little peppy 1-liter engine, and it is a ton of fun in the city. You can really flick it around, really play with it. It's small, it's nimble, you can park it anywhere. You can't do a lot of mods to that engine, but remember, if you want to go crazy, the Baleno RS is essentially that same engine with a turbocharger. So if you have a bit of a budget and you really want to make a bit of a sleeper car, the Alto K10 with the turbo is the way to go. And for my final car on the list, and one that I'm personally hoping to snag by the end of 2020, it's the Zen Steel or the Zen Carbon, the 2-door Zen that we had for a very limited amount of time, and then of course numbered, a limited number of units sold in India too. Now the 1-liter MPFI engine is, well, not exactly a performance-oriented engine, but remember that 1.3 engine from the S Team or the Swift is a direct bolt-on, and 85 horsepower, 87 horsepower in a Zen might sound like fun, right? Well, I can assure you it definitely is. So there you have it, my personal top 5 affordable enthusiast cars that you can buy in India, and for good measure 5 more bonus cars that you can also add to that list of yours if you want to go shopping for a new project car or just for something that will make you have a little bit of fun. Now all of these cars are different in their own right and they do different things differently, but what I can assure you is that all of these cars will put a massive smile on your face at the end of it.